I went to buy a loaf of bread and ended up handing over 7 leaves. The bread cost 5. The other 2 weren't paid by choice. The blunt tip prompt on the board demanded it, and Baker Ant's heavy stare demanded it. I had only gone to buy bread. But the tip wasn't a choice, it was a demand. When did we start paying their wages for them? I came to the marketplace again today. In the ant kingdom, leaves are used as money for buying and selling. The leaves issued by the queen ant are currency that can be exchanged for anything in the kingdom. 1 leaf gets you a handful of seeds, 5 leaves get you a loaf of bread. Baker ant, fish shop ant, herb shop ant, and builder ant each held their spots at the marketplace. Each one set out their goods, took leaves, and handed back change. Once you paid the price, that was the end of it. Pay what the price tag says, pocket your change, and walk away. That had been the long-standing way of the marketplace. Nothing more to give, nothing less. One spring day, a small wooden jar appeared in front of Baker Ant's stall. A wooden board beside it read, "If you enjoyed it, feel free to add a little more." At first, no one paid it any attention. I walked right past it for a few days myself. But the moment I took my bread and turned to leave, my eyes kept catching the jar. I quietly slipped 1 leaf into the jar and hurried away. Back home, I did the math. That 1 leaf was 20% of the bread's price. I wasn't the only one, it seemed. From the next day on, the jar was always full. Baker Ant never touched the price tag. All it took was setting out a jar, and more leaves came in. A month later, the same jar appeared in front of Fish Shop Ant's stall. The month after that, the seed stall. The month after that, the herb shop. By the end of summer, every stall in the marketplace had its own jar. Even Builder Ant held out a jar after finishing a wall. That had never been a place for tips. I paid for bread, paid for fish, paid for seeds. And every single time, I pulled out 1 more leaf in front of the jar. Leaves I never used to have to give. Once, I tried to pretend I hadn't seen the jar and just walked on. But I saw the line of ants behind me, and I turned back and reached for the jar anyway. When autumn came, a wooden board was put up in front of Baker Ant's stall. 3 numbers were carved side by side on the board. 1 leaf, 2 leaves, 3 leaves. Below that, in small letters, "Please select your additional gratuity." I stood in front of the board for a long time. There was no option for nothing anywhere. Picking the smallest number felt like announcing I was a cheap ant. A long line had formed behind me without my noticing. I ended up choosing the middle number. Baker Ant said nothing. But those eyes nodding along were watching me, no question about it. On my way out of the marketplace, I counted the leaves I had spent today. There were clearly leaves gone that never appeared on any price tag. A tip was originally something you gave voluntarily when you received exceptionally good service. No one forced you, and it was perfectly fine not to give one. But now, tips had become the default. Jars appeared, boards appeared, and preset choices appeared. It was dressed up as voluntary, but the whole setup made it hard to say no. The shops had found a way to collect more leaves without ever changing the price tag. As jars multiplied, amounts climbed, and boards pressed for choices, leaves quietly slipped away. Tipflation wasn't prices going up. It was the way of paying that had changed. Thank you. See you in the next story.